You got me? Are we back? Are we live? My apologies to folks, but YouTube keeps screwing around with the settings on these mobile devices, and so I had to restart. I'd set it for horizontal. It wouldn't do it. I had to turn it back. It's very annoying. YouTube, stop screwing around with content creators' settings. Boy, the light is not very good in here, is it? So I guess I should lean up here a little bit closer. One person here now. I had 4 people watching a moment ago. That's typically frustrating. Anyway, welcome back to the program. The one person watching, I do appreciate being here. Got 3 likes. So are there really 3 likes for a video that there's 1 person watching? There's 2. Anyway, let's get to the news. Today is April Fool's, and April 1st, I should say, not April Fool's. April 1st, 2024, and once again, we're on the road. Hey, Teresa. Once again, on the road, doing the mobile edition of Chris Wyatt Reports. Thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate you being here, and apologies for the previous stream for those who tuned in for that. But let me just do a quick announcement right here on the broadcast. This is breaking news. Nobody knows this yet, so I thought I'd share this with you. And here's the truth of the matter, folks. I have to tell you today, in April of 2024, I've had my fill. I can't stomach the nonsense anymore, and I've decided to move to Wyoming. I'll be relocating in Star Valley in western Wyoming sometime in the next 6 months, moving all my personal goods and my resources to Star Valley, and I'll be setting up shop out there. I've purchased some land, about 40 acres out there, and I'm looking forward to it. I do not intend to farm out there. I'll just be, what's this? No, this is true. I haven't heard. What's this? Heard what? Heard in a while. Don't. Yeah, so I'll be moving to Wyoming, and it's 40 acres. So I'm looking forward to it. 40 acres, and I will get a mule with the place, but that's it. So nothing else. No farming, but I will plan on having elk on my property, and we'll probably hunt for elk out there. That's the plan. So if anybody wants to come to western Wyoming, to Star Valley, to come out and visit, you're welcome to do that. But I do not plan to travel anywhere else in the world. The inflation is simply too much. I can't afford it. And so I'm simply going to move to Wyoming and live on my 40 acres out there with my mule, and we'll see how it goes. No comments? Well, it's April 1st. That's your April Fool's joke for today. I'm not moving to Wyoming, although I love it in Wyoming. Beautiful country out there, but I am not moving to Wyoming. No, I'm too busy here in Pennsylvania trying to sort out the mess the Commonwealth has. So let's get to some of the news here, folks. 15 more suspects arrested in connection with the Fort Hare killings in South Africa. 15 more suspects have been arrested in connection with 2 murders at the University of Fort Hare and the attempted murder of its Vice Chancellor, Professor Sakele Buhulungu. And Deputy Vice Chancellor Renuka Vital. So pretty crazy stuff there, folks. That brings a total to 25 people have been arrested in this murder plot there. That's just crazy. So highway traffic volumes expected heavily today, and that period should have passed now as people return from vacationing with family and friends or hitting the beach or wherever they went for Easter weekend. So some of the routes that are affected by this earlier today should be done, as I said by now. The N3 from Durban to Joburg, the N1 from Polokwane to Pretoria, the N4 from Ehemalini to Pretoria, the N12 from Potchefstroom to Joburg, and the N1 from Bloemfontein to Joburg. All of those places are supposed to be busy this afternoon. Hopefully no accidents, but traffic was expected from noon until late in the evening. It is already now 6 p.m. in South Africa. Hopefully that traffic is beginning to ease for folks. Thanks for being here. So more than 1,000 road users were arrested over the Easter weekend. 900 vehicles were impounded. Wow. Law enforcement officers stopped and checked a total of 75,961 vehicles in South Africa, and 16,927 drivers were issued with traffic fines for various infringements. Can you imagine that? Of the 76,000 vehicles on the road, 17,000 people committed some sort of offense. 17,000. That's a 25%, almost a 25% infringement rate. That's pretty high. So think about this: 1 of every 4 vehicles on the road in South Africa is either committing a crime or traffic violation or is not roadworthy. Isn't that scary? Isn't that scary, folks, when you think about that? And that's South Africa. I mean, that is the case all over Africa, but here in the States, it's higher than you would imagine too. But still. Now, one of the major concerns during the period was unroadworthy road vehicles, and 274 vehicles with defects were discontinued. In other words, they couldn't go anywhere. We keep doing what we do. There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, this is not an April Fool's joke. It's not an April Fool's joke, so let me share this with you. Escom is hiking its electricity prices 12%, and it's no April Fool's joke. That's correct. Your electric bill is going up again in South Africa, 12%. And for those of you who don't get electricity or have load shedding all the time, you're probably wondering, what does it matter? Escom's electricity price increase for the 2024-25 financial year kicks in today, April 1st, 2024, and that is no April Fool's joke. So not pulling the wool over your eyes on that one. If it's a little dark in the car, you'll have to forgive me. We've had epic, massive rainfall here, and the skies are overcast and cloudy, although the rain has eased up, so no arcs are floating by. Yep. Yes, 12% increase when you're paying for no service delivery. Yep. Now, the presidency, the office of the president, says the government is on track to reduce load shedding. Yeah, that's right. That's how that government claims are on track to reduce load shedding. Sorry, I thought I recognized somebody out there jogging. Yeah. 3 units at the Kasili power plant were returned to service months ahead of schedule. Well, here's the thing. Why were they out of service in the first place? Ask yourself that question as you go to the polls on May 29th, 2024. Why were these power stations out of service to begin with? Because of the incompetence, the corruption, the negligence, and the theft that occurred at Escom over the past 20 years. Now, the presidency says significant progress has been made in the past 6 months in implementing the government's plan to end load shedding. Why does the government need a plan to end load shedding? Because they created load shedding. The presidency released a report on the implementation of the Energy Action Plan, which is coordinated by the National Energy Crisis Committee and under the leadership of the electric slide minister. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Kozisenso Ramakopa. You can do it. It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. Anyway, the electric slide minister, you know him. He is the electricity minister in South Africa, and we call him that because of his mad dancing skills. The man is a boogie woogie machine. Anyway, after the introduction of tax incentives and financing mechanisms, the amount of rooftop solar installed by businesses and households has more than doubled to more than 5 gigawatts. 5,000 megawatts. Now, in December last year, 3 further bid windows were released for 7,615 additional megawatts of new capacity from solar, wind, gas, and battery. But make no mistake, folks, that solar, wind, gas, and battery is all just hot air. None of that has been installed yet. So they're talking about having an additional 7,600 megawatts of power, but it's not installed yet. So that's just academic. The presidency said Escom also launched a cross-border standard offer program, which will procure up to 1 additional gigawatt in power from neighboring countries in 3 years. But my question is, who exactly is going to give you that additional gigawatt? South Africa is, of course, a member of the Southern African Power Pool, which makes sense. But here's the problem with that, folks. Here's the problem with that. Karibe is dry. Zimbabwe can't generate sufficient electricity for itself. Botswana imports nearly 3/4 of electricity from South Africa. And the Cahora Bassa Dam can only export so much electricity to South Africa. So where is that gigawatt going to come from? Namibia? Swaziland? Lesotho? Well, if the hydroelectric projects were finished, yes. But the South African government under the ANC abandoned its efforts to improve that. So I don't know where that additional gigawatt's going to come from unless it comes out of the pockets or the grid of Mozambicans or Zimbabweans or someone like that. So I think that the government's plan, the presidency's plan, is just smoking crack cocaine there. But the reason why Escom can limit load shedding is not because Escom's improved performance, not because the electric slide minister's great plan to resolve things, but because South Africans have gone off grid. More and more South Africans now get their power from rooftop solar, photovoltaic, some from wind turbines. They're not relying on Escom, and that's why it's possible for Escom to alleviate load shedding. Not because of their competence or their genius planning, but because people are moving off. Hey, folks, it's April 1st. No more e-tolls in Gauteng. You know those annoying overhead things that have this like purple light that dings when you go through it, and they get charged a ridiculous amount for tolls? Well, that will no longer be the case. Transport Minister Sindiziwe Chikungwa said the South African National Roads Agency, or SANRAL, withdrew the toll declaration on 7 sections of the national roads which form part of the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, or GFIP, and had electronic tolling. The date and time for which the above withdrawal of toll declarations will be effective shall be April 11th, 2359, and 59 seconds, according to Gazette. Well, there you go, folks. No April Fool's jokes. E-tolls are finally going away. Can you imagine that? Finally, after ripping off tourists like me and travelers, getting screwed, getting credit card bills after the fact for those tolls. Yep, and not to mention all the South Africans who were billed hundreds of thousands of rand when their card never even went through the darn things. There you go. Wow. So the Daily Maverick seems to be the only publication that covered Action SA's manifesto launch. Action SA is an up-and-coming political party in South Africa, and I do cover the politics in South Africa. Excuse me. So Action SA, the brainchild of Herman Mashaba, the former Democratic Alliance mayor of Johannesburg, and successful businessman who became a millionaire during the apartheid era with his businesses geared towards black South Africans. Herman Mashaba, a very personable person whom I've interviewed in person. There's a lot of persons in that sentence. A very personable man whom I've interviewed in the flesh. And that's much better. So here are some of the comments about their manifesto that Daily Maverick commented on. But I saw nothing about the manifesto launch inside of News 24, Propaganda 24. I saw nothing about it in the IOL or any of the Times Live, any of those publications. So this is what they have to say. This is a selection of some of Action SA's political manifesto for the 2024 elections. Now, they're talking like the DA and the ANC about basic income and social policy. They talk about a basic monthly income will be provided to registered adult South Africans and permanent residents. So you don't have to be South African to get a handout. The government will pay 790 Rand in the first year, 1,101 Rand in the second year. And by the third year, all these people living off the dole who should no longer be on the dole will get 1,622. So let me tell you the problem with Action SA's plan right there. You are encouraging people to live on welfare because you're giving them more. If you turned that around and offered less, if you offered 1,600 the first year and then 1,100 the second year and just 790 the third year, you would force people to get off the dole and find a job and be productive citizens. But what Action SA is doing is they're encouraging sloth, laziness, and perpetual poverty. That's what they're doing. I'm sorry, Herman Mashaba, you're a nice guy, but this is stupid. This is absolutely stupid. And it flies in the face of common sense. Now, the numbers set by 2023, low, medium, and high food poverty data lines and the increase in inflation rate. So you're going to increase this with inflation too. Now, who's going to pay for this, Herman? DA, ANC, who's going to pay for all these social grants, this welfare, which is what it really is, welfare? Now, this is expected. Now, according to Action SA, giving money out, stealing from taxpayers, the small number of South Africans actually pay taxes, giving it to people who are not doing anything productive is going to yield GDP growth of 2 percentage points a year. How? Through consumption? But you stole the money from productive South Africans who would have invested it into financial instruments or invested it into property or invested into business or bought high-end luxury items, which generate far more revenue. That money's been stolen from them and given to people who are going to buy chibuku and rice and bread and yeah. So how is that going to contribute to the GDP? It's not. If anything, it's going to be a net negative. Now, the Action SA also addresses climate change in the environment, folks. Yeah. So they want to increase the water supply by investing in research, including affordable desalination of seawater, better infrastructure, and water supply monitoring. Okay. How much money? And where's this investment going to go? What is investment? It's not just a word, folks. When you say invest, you have to actually invest in something. But this isn't an investment. This is putting money into improving resources. So not very forthcoming. They also say more bulk water supply, storage, better water allocation, more demand reduction measures. How much more bulk water supply? What better water allocations? Where is this at? Where's this at? And more demand reduction measures. So more demand reduction measures means you get less water. That's what that's all about. So think about that one, folks. Now, they also are supporting conservation programs, encouraging recycling, increasing environmental protection. All right, supporting conservation programs. How? Encourage recycling. That's easy enough. You can do that. And then how are you going to increase environmental protection? Crime and corruption. More police on the ground and more paid reservists. Okay, how many more police? South Africa has 187,000 SAPS members. I keep touching this thing at the top. 187,000 South African police service members, many of whom aren't even beat cops. Only about 75,000, maybe 100,000 of those actually cops who go out on a beat. So what more? How many more? Tell us how many more. That would be useful information. The information given here is not useful. And paid reservists. Well, whatever happened Whatever happened? I'm not presenting courses. I'm doing preparation for an exercise next week with senior leaders who are all flag officers from the United States and around the world for joint operation or combined operations. It's called CJ-FLIC. Anyway, so paid reservists, but the commandos were paid reservists. What happened to that police reserve? Now, that's not the Action SA's fault. That's ANC's fault. Make it easier to own guns legally. Okay, I like that. And more challenging to possess them illegally. Yes, but how? How? Life imprisonment means for life. Better reskilling and social integration training for prisoners who do not get life sentences. Now, that one makes sense, and I can agree with that. That doesn't have any thresholds. Life imprisonment means life imprisonment, not after 20 years or 10 years. Expanded court capacity, enhanced powers for magistrates court and specialized criminal courts. What kind of specialized criminal courts? What enhanced powers? And how are you expanding court capacity? You adding more judges? Are you building more courts? What's the deal? So there are a lot of questions here in the manifesto. For the economy, they want an opportunity fund of $55.7 billion, annually capitalized at 5% corporate tax increase over 30 years. So you're going to make companies put money into a fund, a slush fund for the government. Businesses can recoup the tax by scrapping BE legislation, which the party calculates has a compliance cost of 4 to 6%. Now, that's actually very clever. That's actually very clever. The Action SA does something clever here that's actually good for the economy. They want to introduce a tax, but you can get rid of the tax by getting rid of racist policies in your corporations. That's pretty smart. That's actually good. Well done by Action SA on that one. They said that'll be invested in an opportunity fund to support Black, colored, Indian, Asian, South Africans who remain disadvantaged, which will be means tested. Well, that racist policy is the same. So I'm sorry, Action SA. When you favor people based on their skin pigmentation or their gender or their origin, that's just racist. And I don't want to hear about historically disadvantaged. It's been 30 years. The historical disadvantage is the fault of the ANC. If you want to advantage people who are historically disadvantaged, then find the ANC, get the money from the ANC, which they don't have unless Tehran pays them, and use that to fund your fund. Don't take it from taxpayers or from businesses who've committed no crime. Stupid. A board will independently govern the fund and hold funds for entities such as the National Youth Development Agency. Allocations will be 10% to tertiary education, 30% to entrepreneurial funding, 35% to infrastructure, and 25% towards further investment. Oh yeah, there's no opportunity for corruption there, folks. No opportunity for corruption there. On education, the Action SA says no child must spend more than an hour traveling to school. That's quantifiable, that's laudable, and that's a good idea. A focus on numeracy. What's that? Numbers? And by 2035, they want 90% of people should be able to read for their age at 10 years of age. Well, that's fair. Governance. They want to reduce the size of the cabinet to about 20 ministries, remove all deputy ministers, reduce perks. The current cabinet is 32. That's down from Zuma's era, which had 59 cabinet ministers. And there are 38 deputy ministers. Maintain the public service wage bill at 10% of GDP. Ban cater deployment and decentralized service delivery. Well, those are actually all good ideas. Those are good ideas there. As far as jobs, the Action SA says, under her Mashaba says, voluntary national service for young South Africans from age 18. Voluntary national service? Doing what? The SANDF can't even feed its troops or pay their bills in the Congo. Who's going to run this national service? Relax labor laws to make it easier to fire non-performing workers. Agreed. Reduce minimum wage laws, especially for new entrants. Link this to the upper bound poverty line. That's reasonable. Just eliminate it altogether would be good. Economic reforms are calculated to have an employment stimulus impact of 4.8 million jobs by 2029. I'm not sure where they get the numbers from, but I'm not going to dispute it. Migration, and this is the big thing. Action SA is being accused of being xenophobic and racist, mostly xenophobic because most of the people they're xenophobic towards are black, and so people acting as if you can't be a racist against a black person if you're a black person. In fact, you can be a racist against black people if you're a black person. But anyway, it's mostly xenophobic. I'll accept that. So they've had this bad reputation for being xenophobic. So this is the most interesting part of their manifesto. Action SA's manifesto condemns xenophobia and wants to make it easier to enter South Africa legally and more difficult to do so illegally. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but how? How? Manifesto says we want the people of the world to come to South Africa, but let's do so following our laws. Well, we want the same thing in America, but Joe Biden isn't allowing that. Improve the deportation of foreigners found guilty of committing crimes in South Africa or of people living in the country illegally. 100%. That's good. Well said. There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news out of the Sudan where 1 million people are hungry and the ANC doesn't seem to care. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's been nearly a year since fighting broke out between the military headed by Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the paramilitary Rapid Support Force headed by General Hamadan Dagalo. Now, he's universally referred to as Hamdati, excuse me. Now, the war has plunged 49 million people into chaos, forcing more than 8 million people from their homes, and over 1 million people are hungry. The United Nations World Food Program says the roots of the hunger problem are twofold: access and funding. So within Sudan, World Food Program trucks have been blocked, hijacked, attacked, looted, and detained. Outside Sudan, makeshift camps are swollen with hungry and sick arrivals, but there's no money to feed them. Most have fled into South Sudan and Chad. In Chad, a funding crisis meant only the newest arrivals had been receiving food. All food distribution in Chad, home to 1.1 million refugees already, will cease entirely within a week, according to Cindy McCain, Executive Director of the World Food Program. And ladies and gentlemen, today on April 1st, I must announce that the African National Congress, gravely concerned about the condition of black Africans, has gone to the International Court of Justice seeking a case against the authorities in Sudan for genocide against the Sudanese people. That's right. At this hour, Naledi Pandor and, of course, Ronnie Lamola are currently at The Hague arguing their case before the International Court of Justice about the inhumane genocidal treatment of black Africans. And if you've ever been to Sudan, those folks really are dark-skinned black Africans. So the ANC is pushing right now at the ICJ. We could go live to the ICJ. I think we have an interview here with Naledi Pandor. Hang on a second, folks. Yeah, we're going to go live to The Hague, where Naledi Pandor, the Director of International Relations and Cooperation, DIRCO, the Foreign Ministry of South Africa, is currently talking. Yes, Ms. Pandor, yes, I understand that you've taken this case up because you're concerned for the plight of black Africans. Now, does this have anything to do with your case against Israel?
Wyatt, no, who told you this? We don't care about black Africans. Solo. Oh, no, we don't care about black Africans. All we care about is demonizing the Jews. That's what we do. Yes, Solo, were you Jewish too? Yes, with Turko. You know I'm 86th on the list for South Africa's ANC. I will not be in Parliament anymore, so you won't have my face to kick around. Thank you very much, Wyatt.
Thank you, Ms. Pandor. We appreciate that update from The Hague. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Naledi Pandor, also known as Jabba the Hutt, live from The Hague. And we come back now to our news program. Sorry about that interruption, folks, but that was a breaking story here on April 1st, April Fool's Day. We did need to bring that story to you. It's critically important to hear about how the ANC is concerned about the plight of black Africans, so concerned that they've taken a case of genocide and intentional starvation against the Sudanese forces to the International Court of Justice. We all know how much the ANC cares about black Africans. They try so hard. Sorry. Sorry about that, folks. A little bit of fun right there. So anyway, so there's your April Fool's joke right there. Opposition victories in Turkey's local elections have dealt Erdogan a rare defeat. That's right, the dictator for life in Turkey, a NATO member, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Of course, Turkey's nowhere near the North Atlantic. Turkey's main opposition party won a resounding victory in Sunday's local election. Of course, what an abomination. It's on Easter, but there aren't many Christians left in what was once a Christian nation of Byzantium. Handing President Recep Tayyip Erdogan his worst defeat in a contest that laid bare voter anger over a deep and debilitating economic crisis. Unofficial results show the opposition party, the Republican People's Party, well, I like the sound of that, or the CHP, with a nationwide lead over Erdogan's ruling Justice and Development Party, 37.7 to 35.5, with 99.8% of the vote in, and the ballots counted, according to the state-run Anadolu news agency. The election for mayors and local council seats was the first national victory for the CHP in more than 2 decades that Erdogan has served as dictator of Turkey's society. And it marked a startling turnaround for the CHP less than a year after its candidate was defeated by Erdogan in a presidential race that left Turkey's opposition in disarray and many questioning the legitimacy of the election. Well, woke America is looking at booting Francis Scott Key's name from the rebuilt Baltimore Bridge. Many believe the collapse of the bridge will leave Francis Scott Key's name buried along with it. Representative Mike Collins, a Georgia Republican, asked his followers on social media to predict a name for the new bridge. Baltimore obviously won't rename the new bridge after Francis Scott Key again, he said. A new bridge, some believe, should be named after other historical figures in Maryland, such as black abolitionist Frederick Douglass or Harriet Tubman, or perhaps Thurgood Marshall, the first black Supreme Court justice. We should not, in 2020, Whenever the bridge is rebuilt, be naming things in honor of former slaveholders, Mr. Washington wrote in the route. Key was a Maryland native and died in Baltimore, where a statue on North Utah Street was erected in 1911. Francis Scott Key, of course, is the author of the Star-Spangled Banner, our national anthem. But he has a complicated history. He was a slave owner at his death, not throughout his life, but at his death. And he, of course, defended slaves for their freedom and former slaves. He protected them. So I guess that's not good enough. It's not enough in your favor. So apparently, when Francis Scott Key was alive, America was the only country in the world that had slavery. The only country. Did you know that? That's right. That's right. Francis Scott Key in the War of 1812. We're the only country in the world that had slavery. So obviously, Francis Scott Key, a man who defended slaves and former slaves, isn't good enough to be on a bridge or have a school named after him. This nonsense needs to stop. Judging people by our moral values today based on a time that people lived in when this was the norm. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Well, the Biden regime's Environmental Protection Agency, the thugocracy, the EPA is, tees up rules to make America's trucking fleet go electric starting in 2027. Yeah, folks, that's just 3 years away. 2.5 years, really. The Biden regime on Friday released final emission rules to force the nation's fleet of heavy-duty vehicles, such as buses and semi-trucks, to begin going electric beginning in 2027. The regulations come on the heels of the EPA wanting to phase out up to 67% of gasoline-powered passenger cars by 2032. Good luck with that, you scumbags, with predominantly all-electric and some hybrid electric models. Now, policy is part of Joe's ambitious green energy agenda to combat climate change by requiring the transportation sector to cut back on carbon dioxide emissions. I can tell you how we cut back on carbon dioxide emissions. Stop letting people like Joe Biden talk, and then we won't be releasing any carbon dioxide. Yes, of the more than 12 million trucks on the nation's highways, the Environmental Defense Fund estimates that less than 13,000 are electric trucks. Thank goodness, those toxic batteries are bad for the environment, which range from delivery vans to tractor trailers. Many of them, about 10,000, were added only last year. That's roughly 0.12% of the industry meeting the administration's objective. So within a couple of years, they expect us to just abandon vehicles that cost $150,000 to purchase, and it's just going to throw them all out. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, in a little talked about story found almost nowhere in the media, all covered up by the media, the leftist lying media doesn't bother to tell you these stories, folks. But let me talk to you about a major win for election integrity took place right here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You can't find it on CBS, you can't find it on ABC or CNN or the New York Slimes, the Washington Post, or even the Washington Times. Maybe you can, but it doesn't just jump right out at you. I can tell you this, though. This story was in the Epoch Times. Pennsylvania's Republicans score a win in a court battle over Pennsylvania's ballot requirements. Pennsylvania rules that require mail-in ballots to be dated are legal, according to federal appeals court. The state law that says voters must fill out, date, and sign envelopes containing the ballots is not prevented by the Civil Rights Act of 1964, a majority said in the March 27th ruling. This happened last week. I did briefly mention it, but didn't have enough information to continue the story because the media has covered this story up. There's no voter. Begins with an F, ends with a D, and you know what all the letters are in between. None of that takes place, you know? Now, the same court ahead of the 2022 election cycle ruled that state officials must count undated ballots. So this court ruled something completely different 2 years ago. But the U.S. Supreme Court vacated that order after the state's acting Secretary of State said counties should still count undated ballots. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that counties could not count mail-in ballots with missing or incorrect dates. About 7,900 mail-in ballots were not counted in the 2020 election because they were missing a signature or date that had an inaccurate date, according to state officials. Now, U.S. District Judge Susan Paradise Baxter, a Democrat appointed by President Trump, reappointed, but originally appointed by Obama, later ruled that the Pennsylvania law violated the Civil Rights Act provision, meaning Pennsylvania officials had to count mail-in ballots even if they lacked dates or contained inaccurate dates. Of course, she's wrong. She doesn't know how to read the law or the Constitution, but she's a judge. Now, this is a crucial victory for election integrity and voter confidence, the Keystone State and nationwide. Pennsylvanians deserve to feel confident in the security of their mail ballots, and this Third Circuit ruling roundly rejects unlawful left-wing attempts to count undated or incorrectly dated mail-in ballots. Michael Whatley, the Republican National committee's chairman said in a statement after the new ruling was handed down. Groups who sued over the law expressed disappointment. If this ruling stands, thousands of Pennsylvania voters could lose their vote over a meaningless paperwork error. The ballots in question in this case come from voters who are eligible and who meet the submission deadline, Mike Lee, executive director of the American Criminal Liberties Union of Pennsylvania, said in a statement. In passing the Civil Rights Act, Congress put a guardrail in place to be sure that the states don't erect unnecessary barriers that disenfranchise voters. It's unfortunate the court failed to recognize that principle. Voters lose as a result of this ruling. But of course, Justice Samuel Alito from the Supreme Court has said that Pennsylvania law did not appear to violate the Civil Rights Act provision because it did not deny people the right to vote, which is true. When a mail-in ballot is not counted because it is filled out correctly, the voter is not denied the right to vote, he said previously. Rather, that individual's vote is not counted because he or she did not follow the rules for casting the ballot. Thank you very much for common sense. If you can't follow the simple rules, you're not being denied your franchise. You're simply being held to a minimal standard for submitting your ballot, which is not unreasonable. So there you go. Thank you, Justice Alito. And to the leftists out there, you're wrong yet again. It must be painful in your world being wrong so often. Hey, folks, did you hear Joe Biden won the North Dakota Democratic primary on Saturday? Over the weekend, Joe Biden with 840 votes to 31 for Marianne Williamson. Joe Biden won the North Dakota primary. Now, in the Republican caucus back on March 8th, Donald Trump won with over 1,600 votes, more than double Joe's votes in the primary. Hey, George Steinberg has just given a 350 Rand super chat. Thank you for that. Cool beans. It's your 10th super chat. Thank you so much for that, George. Didn't realize you've done that many already. Thank you so much. Now YouTube's finally getting smart, telling us how many times somebody's super chatted. Isn't that cool? Well, folks, after the bridge collapse, the Maryland governor urges Congress to pass funding for rebuilding the Francis Scott Key Bridge. What? Why is Congress paying for that bridge? Maryland should be paying for that bridge, but Maryland shouldn't be paying for it. The shipping company and the reinsurance agents are the ones on the hook, not the taxpayer. I'm not paying for the Francis Scott Key Bridge. I'm already paying enough nonsense in this country, including building walls in other countries when we can't have a wall. With efforts underway to clean up thousands of tons of steel debris from the collapsed bridge in Baltimore's harbor, Maryland Governor Wes Moore on Sunday urged Republicans to work with Democrats to approve the federal funding needed to rebuild the bridge and get the port economy back on its feet. No, we shall not spend federal funds, my tax dollars, to rebuild a bridge that was collapsed because of negligence by a shipping company. Tell the insurance companies and tell the shipping company to pay for it, not the taxpayer. The Biden regime released $60 million in initial emergency aid on Thursday to assist in cleaning up the bridge and reopening the port, which is the largest in the U.S. for roll-on, roll-off vehicle imports and exports of farm construction equipment, and the second largest port in America for the export of coal. The port has been closed since Tuesday, leaving in the limbo the jobs of 15,000 people rely on daily operations. Well, I'm okay with the federal government paying $60 million for the cleanup to open the channel so the port can be used again. However, they must go after the shipping company and the insurance companies to recoup that $60 million when it's all over. Federal officials have told Maryland lawmakers that the final cost of rebuilding the bridge could reach at least $2 billion. Now, let's put this in perspective, folks. I know inflation comes into play here, but $110 million in 1977 to complete the Key Bridge, and now they want $2 billion. That's 20 times what it cost, 19 times. Hey, folks, Canada's Niagara region declares a state of emergency. Ooh, what happened? Is it terrorist? Is it climate change? Is it the truckers? Did the truckers scare the Canadian Mounties and now they have to declare a state of emergency? No, it's the eclipse, ladies and gentlemen. It's the eclipse. That's right. The total solar eclipse on April 8th will be the first to touch the province since 1979. And Niagara Falls is declared by National Geographic to be one of the best places to see it, although the path has changed a little bit, so I think it still applies. The city is in the path of totality, where the moon will entirely block the sun's rays for a few minutes. Niagara Falls Mayor Jim Diodati said earlier in March that he expects the most visitors his city has ever seen in a single day. Well, I would agree. The regional municipality of Niagara is proactively invoking a state of emergency to prepare for the event. The declaration announced on Thursday sets in motion some of the additional planning tools to prepare for the day, which could involve major traffic jams, heavier demands on emergency services, and cell phone network overloads. Smart move by the Canadians, eh? Hey, hosers, you got a plan there. That's pretty solid, man. Yeah, I love it. I'm loving it. Bulgaria and Romania partially join European Schengen region. Schengen rules are not yet applicable to land borders due to Austria's concerns over undocumented migration. After a 13-year wait, Bulgaria and Romania have partially joined Europe's Schengen area of free movement. Two countries reached an agreement late last year to join the continent's free travel area by air and sea after Austria opposed full membership, including land crossings, saying Romania and Bulgaria needed to do more to prevent irregular migration. And there you have it, folks. So the Schengen agreement now applies to Bulgaria and Romania. Next thing you know, we'll be all the way to Tibet, and people can just wander around without going through a border crossing. Well, let's see what the chat has to say here. What have you guys been saying in the chat since I came on board here? All right, so we got Teresa, Val is here. Now there's a line I haven't heard in a while. Don't stress, Chris. Welcome to April. Busy bee. What do you mean the April Fools? And Hester Kotza, Craig Fisher. Welcome, Craig. Yeah, April Fools. And Janet Liddy's here. And Teresa, I was sure that was an April Fool joke. Can't foresee you leaving there. You're better off in Cape Town. Well, Wyoming is probably a really awesome place to be. So, yep, just testing you guys. So, Con Eggman, Pennsylvania Mania. Ash Engelbrandt. There's the brains behind the operation. Paulie's here. Shawnee says, wow. All right. Yeah, well, we got fire put out there in the Cape Town area. What's wrong with people? No law and order, total disrespect. Well, what is wrong with people, Debbie? I agree. Vilma Rasmus is here as well. 12% crazy paying for lack of service delivery. You're right. No electricity, but you're paying. Looking a bit gray and overcast there. Well, are you talking about me, Debbie, or the sky? I'm looking a bit pale and overcast and gray myself. All right. Val Cooper. What? Cassius. What's this? Ever at full capacity before? Huh? Cuselli. Oh, you mean Kusili, the power plant. I think you just spelled it wrong, Monray. No, it's never been at full capacity. Crime stats for South Africa, revealing crimes report showed that nearly 8,000 brutal murders occurred in the last 3 months. 1,500 people found guilty. 3 months, 8,000. That's just crazy. We've had no load shedding all weekend during a time when everyone went home. Yeah, cool. Exactly. Everyone's home, so you should be sucking down power. How could it be working? George is in from Heckport. Andre Sullivan said not long ago, Israel attacked the building next to the Iranian embassy in Tehran. Damascus, it seems 6 people were killed in the embassy and the high-ranking official. It seems about an hour ago. Andre, I didn't see that. Thank you for sharing it. Gavin Comer. And then Teresa, ANC create e-tolls. Now they celebrate putting... Exactly. The ANC, Panyazi Lusufi is claiming credit for getting rid of e-tolls, but your party put them in. The ANC created this disaster, and now you want credit for them ending? I don't think so. Hey, the scientists here, who will pay for the basic income? Well, no, there'll be no money. They'll get it from the grift from the Americans and the Westerners who feel shame over their white supremacy and their white privilege. So they'll all just pay up. They'll give them more money, like the Just Energy Transformation. Hey, Mike, how's it going? Laziest buggers in the world. Should try to create jobs. Agree. Utilize toll buildings to run courses to educate people. Don't encourage handouts. Yep. Already downgraded education 33%. Okay. What course? I'm not presenting courses. Marilyn, how's it going? Allison Johnson. Something to worry about. Talks that DA and ANC are going to coalition. Vilma, I've predicted it's a possibility. And you see my video talking about potential coalitions outcomes for 2024. Also, to be fair, a year ago, Roman Kabanak and Byron Shepard were talking about it. Roman Kabanak especially, he was one of the first to talk about potential coalition between the ANC and DA. Yeah, yep. Already cleaning up half our own beaches without helping us out. Exactly. Prepaid electricity is also a ripoff. Bought 1,000 midway through March, got 40 units a bit, and then went and bought last night. And pre-empty today increased first, got 140 units for 1,000 Rand. Yeah, time it would love to be a fly on the wall. Yep. Yep. What's this? Debbie says, that's not shocking. I buys 2 lots, 1,000 mid-month cheaper, so I'm going to have to heart attack when I buy again. Okay, only international issue AC cares about is Palestine. Correct. Okay. It must look inward. Haha, I love it, Chris. The job of the hut of Naledi Pandor. Murray McGregor, that's right. You can take our lives, but you'll never take our freedom. Yeah, no. I always call her Naledi Pandor. I always call her Job of the Hut. Yep, John Jarvis here. Huh. Why doesn't Pandor worry about the plight of her own kind? Well, there you go. George Floyd Bridge. Yeah, okay. And when they rebuild that bridge, it will be long enough to put everyone every day they want blacks. Rainy Fott, welcome to you. Myra, hey. Ben Laviskai said, that's exactly what's on my receipt. Be prepared, as other commentators have said, buy only once a month if you don't want a shock. All right, well, I haven't told anyone when to buy electricity. PA gaining momentum, initial steps to overturn Act 77. Yeah, Mike, I think we're in track there to start getting it taken care of. But It won't happen anytime soon. We need to get Republicans, we need to get conservatives into the state house. And one of them sitting right here. I'm running. And unlike one of my opponents, who's just not the right person for the job, elect me. Other folks are decent folks, but they won't get the job done either. So Charles Van Altson's here. Hey, Charles. And then voters need to get off their butts and vote legally. Yep, Mike. And so George, 350 Rand was his 10th super chat on a live stream. Thank you so much for that, George. 350 Rand, cool beans. Ship is responsible. Let them fill the bill. Exactly. And what else? Slippery Pickles here. Eclipse passes through 7 towns named Salem. That doesn't sound like it goes well. Salem. We won't see that clips on this side. 2030 is when, yeah, you're right. It's going to be only here in North America. Hey, Ron is in from Bloemfontein. Welcome to you. Pip Jacobs is back. Debbie says, or who engaged in the new weekend, long Easter weekend, new month upon us. Yep. And then Charles Van Altston, joking, he says, people who are eligible to vote and don't should be in prison for a week, then forced community service for a month. Well, that's pretty harsh. Actually, to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with people not voting. I have a problem with people who whine about government and lack of service delivery and then don't vote. That I have a problem with. But if people don't want to vote, it's their thing. Debbie, thank you. Okay. And Harriet Janssen von Rensburg says, good evening, Colonel. Do you have the correct DEI dress code for the new military? I do not. I identify as a tree, and that's because the leaves that I produce shed light, and I absorb carbon dioxide. Therefore, I'm a net climate plus, and I release oxygen. That's right. So I identify as tree. Sue didn't expect the broadcast today. Well, Sue, I'll do it every day I can. It should be possible most days, but I do it from my mobile. We're on the road. That's how we do this. I've done it before. I've done it in South Africa. I've done it in the UK when I'm traveling. I've done it here in the US when I'm traveling. Did it out in Colorado. I've done it in other places. So I try as much as I can to keep up. But this is my lunch break, so I'm not getting any lunch. So I hope you appreciate that. Anyway. Debbie says, dedication is real, Sue. We are spoiled to receive the news and updates. The surcharge and pre-electricity is just crazy. Yeah, no, it is. April is ANC month. ANC month. Yeah, thank you, Debbie, for pointing that out. Yeah, my dedication is real. I mean, it's interesting. So let me tell you a little story, anecdotal story. I was in the district on Saturday, and I was going around knocking on doors and meeting people to try to get people to vote for me for the legislature. And I stopped in a pizza shop because I was hungry. I needed to use the toilet. I'm going to spend some money there. And I ordered a sub, and I got some chips and some tea. And before I'd stopped there, I turned around in this village, and I saw a sign of mine in the front yard. I didn't put any signs out there. This is all the way on the other side of the district on the Susquehanna River. And I didn't put any signs there. So someone must have given that person my sign. So I got my order, and there was a couple sitting there with their kids in the restaurant, the little pizza shop. And I told them folks, I said, I'll be right back. I'm just going to go down the street. Someone has one of my yard signs. I'm running for office. I want to thank them for putting the yard sign up. So I went down there, and I knocked on the door, and I wound up meeting the son-in-law. He took me in to meet the father-in-law who had the sign in his yard. And I said, I want to thank you. I am actually Chris Wyatt. I'm the candidate. You've got my sign out there. I said, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And he said, well, so-and-so gave it to me. I said, that's how you got it. Yes, and that person told me what a great candidate you are and sold me on your candidacy after explaining what your positions are and your experience and your status as a veteran. And so I decided that I put a sign in my yard. And I said, thank you so much. That's very kind of you, having never met me, buy into my sign. I really do appreciate that. So then the son-in-law turns out is also a registered Republican. So I gave him plum cards and said, I'd like your vote as well. So I came back inside, and the lady that was sitting there, turns out she's an attorney. I didn't know at the time. She said, wow, you really are a politician. I said, what do you mean? And I sat down to eat my sandwich, my sub. She said, well, I mean, that was very, very nice thing you did there. I said, well, I mean, that's just who I am. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, I mean, it's not being political. That's just who I am. If people are generous or polite or helpful, or they do something, productive, I engage people. I talk to people all over. And ask any of my viewers here in South Africa or the UK. Ask the UK viewers. Ask Keith Alderson. Ask Hendo. Ask Fiona. Who else we met in the UK? Someone else. Fleshin. Ask Fleshin. Ask any of those people in the UK. I go out of my way and take my time to go meet people, because it's the right thing to do. It's not something I've just started doing for politics. It's not fake. It's who I am. And ask people in South Africa, look at all those meet and greets. My first trip to South Africa, I did 17 meet and greets in 30 days. Folks, that's exhausting. scheduling that, even though a lot of the scheduling work is done by people helping me out, going to these events, working my day around those events, hanging out, meeting people, talking to people, keeping them entertained, listening to their positions. I tell you, man, it is really exhausting. But you know what? It's worthwhile. It's important to do. But that's just who I am. You know, I didn't put any errors, or I'm not pretending to be somebody I'm not for this campaign. I can tell you that at least one of my opponents is putting on airs. That's not who they really are. But yeah, Paul says, Chris does a lot of good job answering comments. Most podcasts simply ignore the comments. No matter where you go, you always make the effort. Your podcasts show that, as do your meet and greets. Thank you, Debbie. And that's true. It must have been a rewarding experience to see the sign and then chat with the people. Oh, it was really cool, Paulie. I mean, and that's, you know, absolutely fantastic, Chris. Perfect time to stop and freshen up. How rewarding. Yeah, well, thanks for showing face. Okay. Yeah, no, it was. And here's the thing. I mean, I have been on my feet at that point for about 6 hours, and I've been in 2 different districts, or 2 different townships in my district, and now I was headed into one of the boroughs, the little towns, so covering 3 different areas. And I did 9 hours of marching around. Thankfully, that cortisone injection plus the physical therapy is paying off, because I wasn't sore the next day. I was very tired the next day, that's for sure. So on Easter, I got up a bit late, but we still did a broadcast on Easter. And I worked on my next mailer, and I worked on my signage, and I worked on my finances, and I paid my bills because my money had been deposited from my pay and my disability check. So I was able to start paying my bills. But no, that's just who I am. I'm not boasting. Those of you who know me, you've met me. Came to our group, Sight Unseen, Western Cape, really appreciated by the group. In Westchester. Yeah, I know. Mike invited, okay, so for those who don't know, Mike invited me to come over to Westchester. And here's the thing, Mike, I'm just telling you, okay, it's nobody. First off, that is a 2-hour drive for me one way. It's $38.20 in tolls, and I spent about $40 in gasoline, $40 in gasoline. Now, Mike's group took care of me, and they gave me some money, and they wanted to give me more. I said, no, that's fine. I didn't know what the tolls were going to be. So, I mean, it cost me time, it cost me money, but they wanted to hear what I had to say, and they wanted me to talk to them. So it was not a big deal. I'm going to Cornell University to speak about Liberia. I'm not getting paid for that, although they did mention something about an honorarium. I said, that's not necessary, but thank you if you do it. That's just who I am, folks. I give people my time. I talk to them. Everybody's got a story. Everybody matters. And that's what I try to do. But you know what? People don't like everybody. People don't like people engaged with others. People are envious. People who've never accomplished anything in their lives. They want to be, you know, I don't know, just negative about people who do that. So, what's this? Do you get petrol off? No, scientists. No, we don't get paid anything. So here's another thing. So just so people know this, you can take political contributions, but I intentionally did not form a political action committee, which is the vehicle you need to take political contributions. So for my campaign, I am paying for all the signage, all the advertising, all of the events, all of the cards and magnets and all the other things out of my pocket, out of my savings. I'm depleting my savings to pay for it. Now, it doesn't make me special. Not looking for any. Oh, there's a female cardinal. I just saw one land on the sign. Those are the ones that are drab looking. The males look very beautiful. They're red. But I'm not asking for any special consideration. Other candidates are also spending their own money. But what I'm saying here is that I intentionally did not take donations from people. And people said, why are you doing that? I said, because there are 5 candidates in the primary. And no one knows who's going to win the primary. I don't want you to spend your money as a conservative supporting a campaign that, while it's painful, I can manage it. I just have to do without some other things. I can manage it. I've already spent enough money. I could have paid my mortgage down a couple of months, but I don't want you to put money in until after the primary. I win the primary, then we'll form a political action committee. If people want to donate money to ensure we win in the fall, that's fine. Yeah. You should be paying for the brains. Paulie wants money. Bill Clinton gets $2 million per speaking engagement. Perhaps you should raise your fee. Yeah, knowledge is key and you are sharing it. Thank you. That Scott character makes me smile. No petrol allowance. So scientists, we don't get allowances for the elections. You can raise money. Now, one thing you can do in Pennsylvania, if I'm correct, is there's a federal limit on which you can give to federal office candidates. So each American citizen, I think it's limited $2,500. I believe that's a McCain-Feingold, which is an unconstitutional law that limited our ability to donate money to political candidates. But McCain-Feingold limited that. Yeah, so exactly, Patrick. I'm not taking money from groups. In fact, it's interesting because I was rated by one of the neutral sites where do I sign for my campaign, Charles? Okay. One of the neutral sites that takes information on candidates and posts it online. So you got Ballotpedia, which John Jarvis talked about. By the way, John Jarvis, it took me like 5 hours to answer their questions. They have a ridiculous number of questions. They're all fair questions, but who's got that kind of time? So I lost it a couple times. Fortunately, I typed up my responses and saved them so that I went back. I was able to repost it because I had to do it over a couple periods of time. But one of these sites gives you evaluation. I was listed as conservative conditionally. So I wrote to them, I said, what do you mean conditionally? I mean, I'm conservative. You see my positions. And they said, well, we have 6 categories of things that we use to evaluate a candidate. And amongst those 6 categories, one of them is who donates to your campaign. Who are your donors? Well, I took no donors. That was intentional. So I'm not influenced by anybody. I'm not beholden to anybody. This is coming out of my pocket. It's my time, my resources. And I owe no one anything other than the voters to do right by them, those who vote for me, those who sign my petition. So they judge you whether you're conservative or not based, and this is a religious site or a conservative site, they base you on who your donors are. Well, I don't have donors, so they can't use that. They judge you based on your voting record. I'm not a politician, I have no voting record. So that's out. And there was a third one. So 3 of the categories they couldn't even judge me on. So I got rated on 3 categories for their internal judging, and they gave me conservative conditional. That's funny, actually. Very funny. I'd be selling Boerewors. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. That'd be a good idea. Boerewors and and some biltong as well. Yeah, that would really work. But anyway, folks, yeah, so I've learned an awful lot in this election, and what I've learned is that there's a reason why so few good people of integrity and accomplishment actually run for political office. It's nasty. And this isn't even a particularly, it's an important race, but it's not national significance, just local significance here in the state. And just some of the conduct that's taken place here by politicians who are in office and by people running for office has just been, wow, an eye-opener. I would, I have not compromised my integrity, and I won't do that. But it is fascinating to see the way some people behave. So anyway, Look, again, not taking money doesn't make me special, but it shouldn't be held against me as when it comes to evaluating whether I'm a conservative or not. I mean, that to me, taking money is not conservative. John Jarvis read my answers on Ballotpedia. He said they seems to have been very time consuming, like the reference to MLK. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you to say that. He was an inspiration to me. It's when I was younger, I always found it annoying when people are like, well, I have no role models. Why don't you have role models? Because I'm not white. Wait, what does that have to do with anything? I mean, Mahatma Gandhi is a role model for me. I learned about him as peaceful resistance, nonviolent resistance. And then Martin Luther King. Look, we're all human. We all have foibles. Martin Luther King was not perfect. But his nonviolent approach to overcome a system of oppression imposed largely by Democrats for a century in this country was admirable. And his speech, his I Have a Dream speech, that one day my children will be judged in the content of their character, not the color of their skin. But we've gone completely the opposite direction. But Martin Luther King was an inspiration for me. But thank you, John. It was very time consuming. I spent 5 hours answering those questions. But I didn't have to research any of it. That all is from me. But I mean, every time it's on a website, you only get a narrow window to put in. You got to edit it. And of course, you got typos and spelling. You want to get that correct so you don't look like some, grade 3 learner that the ANC has pushed through school. So anyway, that took time. But thank you for taking the time to read it, John. I appreciate that. Really do. Really do. Yes, it's nasty at all levels from your local HOA and up. Yep. Yeah, no, Mike, it's just, I'm not naive, but it was very eye-opening to see what some of the stuff that's happened here. And I'll share more after the election. Where can we read these answers? John Jarvis, it's Ballotpedia. So look it up. And then you have to look for Pennsylvania, and you have to look for this race. So maybe John can, but John doesn't have, moderator status, and I can't do that here on the fly on my mobile device. So maybe, I don't know if Hendo's here. I didn't see Hendo. But Ballotpedia, it's a neutral website that lists all the candidates. It's a great place to go find how much money is spent and stuff like that. So what you do is look for Ballotpedia and then look for Pennsylvania in the 92nd state legislature. 92nd, 92. That's the race I'm running in. So if you want to see my answers to it, you can do that. Maybe I'll do a stream in which I answer the questions. That might be a good idea. I'll do a video in which I answer the questions. What do you guys think about that? And then I'll put them on my Facebook page for the campaign. I'll do that. Are you coming back next life as an American? Anyway, all right, folks. Look, it's awesome to chat with you all. I did 9 pages of news today. I researched this stuff up before 6 a.m. this morning to get the news and make notes for it. And so I had some stories to share with you. And I will try to keep this up. Can't do it every day, but I'll do my best, and we'll try to keep the news going. Be sure to hit the like button. We got 63 likes. We had a lot more people watching. 55 minutes on the broadcast. Thank you all. Hey, Marilyn, you're welcome. Thank you all so much. I've got to go to check out Ballotpedia. Okay, it's weird that I didn't get an alert today. Menage a Quad, that's because it was unannounced. It was off the fly. You're welcome, Wes. And the other problem is that when I started this, YouTube, I had set it for horizontal. I don't like vertical. I like the horizontal on the phone. So I'd set it for horizontal, and then it didn't start, and it tried to start again, and it said I'd reset it. So it kind of messed people up. So we just started all over again. I deleted that other one because it was annoying. But anyway, so thanks a lot. That's what I'll do. I'll go through their questions, and I'll answer them. I'll go through Ballotpedia and read my answers to you, and I'll make a video on that, and then people will know more about me. So got it. All right, cool beans. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there. God bless, and April Fools. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am identifying as a MK Mkonto Isizwe veteran. I self-identify as an MK veteran. My best friend is Carl Nyhorst, and Jack Markowitz is a young man that I'm mentoring from the EFF. And so I'm hoping that everybody goes out and votes for me in May 29th for the election in South Africa. Just write my name down, and I'll be sure to represent you as either a candidate for the Patriotic Alliance, the EFF, the ANC, or who knows, Mkonto Isizwe. April Fools. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. There was no quid pro quo, said George Bush Sr. Not going to happen, raising taxes. But we did. We raised them. God bless and have a good day, folks. And I hope you all had a safe Easter. Cheers. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. I got to come over here to close up, but that's right in front of the camera. I hate that. There we go. Bye-bye.